Hey everybody, it's Secondhand Dan here, coming to you from the Penny Pincher thrift store land. What I got going on today is I'm going to be packaging up a unique item for eBay, and it's unique not only in its for what it is, but also because its size is a bit bothersome to get a box shaped up. And the other good news is I found my microphone. I know I said it probably a couple times in the latter videos that my microphone was missing. Turns out it was upstairs in a drawer where I keep my belts. So, all right, well, let me clip this microphone onto my lapel here, so to speak. It's just my shirt collar. So here is the item we're going to be packing. It's right now it's just chucked into this box. I had considered using this box to ship it, but this box has got a soft corner, and it's actually a bit bigger than what I need, because I think this box is like 33 by 33, and when I check shipping, if I can get the box down to 30 by 30, I save another $10. And plus, I don't like this box. I mean, I could doctor it up with a lot of tape, add another couple pieces of cardboard around the corner, but that's too much work. And like I say, the price would be higher. Now, let me show you on the eBay here. When you go to ship an item, I do eBay. If you want to look me up, I'm Auction Boss. There is the item I'll be shipping out. And the good news is I'm here in Pittsburgh, and it's actually just going up to Erie. So I calculated the weight, you know, that's 7 pounds. Actually getting close to 8 pounds in a 30 by 30 box by 6 inches thick. The post office would ship it for $70. I don't think so. So you scroll, you know, right there, it's highlighted. Now, if I was to click purchase label, that's what would happen. I'd be a label for $70. But I look at the other options. It's not a legal envelope. It's not a small box. It's not a padded envelope. It's not medium mail. FedEx says we can ship that for $14.83. So I would say winner, winner, chicken dinner, and highlight that. And then I would come down here and hit purchase shipping label. But because it's not actually all boxed up and ready to rock and roll yet, I'm not going to push the purchase label button. But let me show you the difference here. If I change this to 33 by, this computer is painfully slow, 33. And then you would come over, you hit the enter button. Once you don't hit the enter button, and you can see the FedEx price has jumped up to $49 from basically $15, because it's another 3 inches one way and another 3 inches the other way. So it behooves me to keep the size down. And that's why I said this box over here is literally, I think, 33 by 33. And like I said, it's a soft box, so I've got my other option in the back. Let's go check that out. Well, by the way, I thought everybody should get another look at my mug. I think I appear in every one of my videos, so don't want to deny the people the pleasure of this. So anyway, getting back to the task at hand. I've said I had another option, and here is my other option. I have this Roku TV box. So I'm going to cut that down to size. And right now, if we measure it from its closed height down to its closed height. Yeah, it's like 29, 30 inches. So if we do a 30 by 30 on this, we'll bring the price way down. All right, and the object again that I'm shipping, it's actually a clock. A 1970s vintage wall clock. And it's fragile, you know. So I already broke it once, and that was lifting it off the wall where I had it hanging in my showroom. And it just twisted on me as I was taking it off the wall, and one of these snapped off. This one. But I reattached it. I know it's probably better than the ones that are still on there as far as durability. Because what I did was, you see that's the back of the patch. That's epoxy there. What I did was when it was in two pieces, I took a Dremel and I cut a groove in here and I cut a groove in there. And then I took a finishing nail and clipped it so it would lay down in the groove. And I butted the pieces together and I filled it with epoxy. So that should be pretty darn strong, but I don't want to break any more. I informed the buyer that it did break on me while I was taking it off the wall, and they said they still want it if I can make a good repair. So I made the repair. I took the face off. This is the wrong side for the face, but because initially I thought maybe I got to be careful I don't twist it with one hand and break off another spike. I thought it was going to be sandwiched. I thought maybe just between two flat pieces of cardboard. So I was contemplating doing that, just two large squares of cardboard and making a sandwich. I've done that with some things in the past, but because of the bulge in the center, I didn't think that was going to work. So that's why I started taking the face off, because the hands would be even higher and I didn't want them mashed or the mechanism broken. It's actually just a battery-operated mechanism, the typical battery-operated. I've labeled the parts, and here's the face. But I didn't want those hands getting broken or pressure on here, so by the time I would sandwich it between two pieces of cardboard, this would still want to poke through the cardboard. So I've elected to downsize a box here. So let's go ahead and downsize this box. Now, when shipping something, the actual cost, like I showed you, it was getting down to $15 to ship this in a 30 by 30 if it weighs like about 8 pounds. And some people say, well, but you charged them more than twice that. Well, it isn't always necessarily about the actual cost to give it to the shipper, but I got to figure the cost of the time of preparing a box, the cost of supplies. You know, I have to hunt down styrofoam and foam rubber padding. I have to buy rolls of tape. I have to take the time out to weigh it, to calculate it, and then I have to take the time to drive it to the shipper. Like this one will be going FedEx, and that's like at least a good 5 miles away from me. So I try and schedule it so that I can drop it off on my way to something like church, or if I'm going to be over, my mother lives over that way. So I try and coordinate it that I'll be over in that area. It's still, sometimes it's still an inconvenience. My mom's only like halfway there. I still have to go the rest of the way. So shipping, you got to allow yourself time for the labors. You know, if I just got the actual cost of the item that is sold on eBay, eBay's taking their commissions, and so that lowers what I take in the income. And then if I don't allow anything for my labors of shipping, then I'm almost like break even. I had a individual I do like marketplace on Facebook. And I had an individual, I had a pair of 18-inch tires, or 18-inch wheels with bald tires on them. But the 18-inch aluminum mag wheels will fit an F-150, a Ford pickup truck. Probably some other things out there too in the Ford family. But somebody like at least 45 minutes away said, "Oh, I see you're selling those for $55. I'll give you $60 if you bring them to me." I'm like, 45 minutes there and 45 minutes back, you know, we're getting close to 2 hours of my time, you know, give or take red lights, backed up traffic, and plus the gasoline it would take me in my pickup truck. I said, no can do. And, you know, now if it were the object had been worth $1,000, you know, I could probably say, well, you know, let's work this out. I maybe would have made the trip. But not for a $55 item / they were going to give me $60 to think I could recover some of my costs, but it's not worth it. So let's measure this box up here, and we're going to cut it down to size. So first thing is I need the tape measure. It's on right here. I need a square. It's important to make nice straight lines. I think this is like stainless steel. It's a pretty good square. There's no measurements on it, but some squares have measurements on it. I think this might have been a drafter's square. You'll see squares a lot of times at yard sales, so that's a good place to pick them up. Usually it's only for a couple of dollars. You know, I probably didn't even pay $5 for this one. Sometimes you get them for $2 or $3, depending on what they're made out of. I have one over here that is shorter, but it's got the measurements on it. And what I did was I went ahead and drilled holes in it on every inch. So that way I can take a pencil or a fine tip marker and place it in the hole. If I get a certain measurement and I want to run this square across this box at that measurement, I'll have a nice straight line for cutting or for folding. So that's something nice to do, especially if you get them in a aluminum or soft steel, you're able to drill through yourself. But the best way to drill through with something like that is you really want to have a drill press. It's going to be, your holes will probably get off kilter if you're trying to drill it by hand, but it's possible. All right, I'm going to need the magic marker. Here's one here. Sometimes a pen. Now, like I said, we're going for 30 by 30, but you have to remember that when I cut this 30 that way, I have to leave enough to fold over so I have a side on this box. Let's go ahead and put this vintage clock out of the way. Put it back on my other workbench for now. All right, gonna knock this thing over. Nice box. I was actually using it for a little while in the doorway over there. I had some weight inside it, and I use it as a blocking door. So my grandson likes to hang out with me in the workshop. And he's only like 19 months old. So to keep him from wandering into the rest of the building, I would use this as a wall, and it wasn't too hard for me to slide it back and forth when I needed to get past real quick. So I'll be on the lookout for another TV box. Usually you see them in the trash often. Now we said 30 inches is what we need. So measuring across here, I'm going to mark my 30. There, and I'm going to mark it up above also. If you box it, they will ship it. Alrighty, so now I got 2 hash marks on there. Now I can take this square and connect the hash marks. Now okay, so this is going to be my fold line actually. So now I got to add something for the flap, because you can see the edge here is almost 6 inches, real close to 5.5. So if I divide 5.5 in half, we know half of 5 is 2.5, and half of a half is a quarter, so it would be 2 3/4. So if I allow another 2 3/4 on this, because I just want to do a fold that comes together. This one wraps all the way around. It's too much like something I'm not going to do right now, but add another 2 3/4. So I don't have to stretch it out to the end of the box. I can just find a place on here and go up 2 3/4 inches. So there's 1, there's 2, and there is 3/4. Let's do that at the top. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3/4. Okay. I'm doing what I guess what's called a butt seam. Those two halves will fold together and touch. But what I'm going to do is on the other side, I'll add a little more so I get a little bit of overlap. So, it's probably just easier to make them both 3 and 3. What do you think? We'll do it that way, because just a butt lap isn't as secure as an overlap. So we'll go 3 and 3. Another thing like this, a project like this uses a lot of tape. I buy my tape in bulk by the case, and I usually get it off the internet. And that can be hit or miss. I mean, one time I got some tape. I thought, you know, it was horrible. And that I didn't get that one off the internet. I think I got it at one of the office supply stores, and it would tear so easily. Well, you're even trying to get it off the roll, and you know, you'd have this long icicle-shaped strip. So then you have to start to tape again, and so the one brand that I got last, I should go ahead and order another case of it. But the cheap stuff I try and use up by wrapping it around and around and around for that purpose. And I like to use because when you buy tape, they'll actually tell you by the millage how thick of a tape you're buying. So if you like to ship things that are valuable and a little bit weighty, don't go with the cheapest tape out there. And when I bought that tape at the office supply place, it was a name brand, and I figured, okay, I'm paying a little more. I didn't want to wait for 5 days for tape to arrive. I said, let me go ahead and buy this, and it was junky. So I ended up still, I think, just ordering another case off the internet, and that's at my place down in Florida. Because I have a case up here, and I didn't leave with, actually the case up here is running low. There might be only like 6 rolls left out of 24, but, I probably could have taken some if I'd thought of it when I went down there last year, but I didn't. So I ended up just buying another case for down there, which is still, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. Because, use it here or there or both places or... So remember that first mark was 30 inches. And so we can just go ahead and mark the additional 3. That's at 33. So up here on this side of the box as well. 30 inches, where is 30? And 33. So I got hatch marks on the box now. Come on in a little closer. I mean, isn't this exciting? All right, get my square out. Now, they make even longer squares, and they're not drywall squares. Drywall squares are like 4 foot long. I don't know if I have one somewhere in my plethora of tools. I've got straight edges. You know, a straight edge, let me show you my straight edge. Sometimes you'll find those at yard sales. Or, some people will improvise and use something for a straight edge, but this is actually an official straight edge. It's extruded aluminum. I don't know why they always put a 45 on the end. And there's usually a decent hole in it for hanging it up. And I went ahead and put some markings on it some time ago, every foot, but sometimes this is easier to work with than the square when it comes to actually laying down the line, especially since you got 2 lines. You can get away with 1 line with a square if your box is literally in good shape and it's of square construction, but you gotta press down a little bit here to compensate for the bow in the box. See, well, this is nice because it went all the way up over the flap. So that's my crease line, and here's my cut line. I said it's going to be a slight overlap. All right. So you never know what I'm going to make a video about next, but you can't say it's not eclectic. So, like I say, I've got a line I got to cut. So what am I going to cut with? A saw. And the saw I need is back here. A DeWalt circular saw, 20 volt. They make one a little smaller than this, which would probably be even more ideal, but this does the job with no problem. I got to put a slap of battery on it. I'll take the battery off of this tool and slide it on the other tool. It's a nice day here today. It's sunny. I think it's in the upper 50s right now. It's going on 1:45. All right. All right, all right, all right. Let's get this in the best position possible. Okay. Remember, I have 2 lines on here. One is the fold line, the other is the cut line. I should have set the saw, well, a little deeper. It'd go through the end without, well, maybe I'll just finish the end with a hand saw. Okay. I'll just finish it with this saw. I can see where they are going to join. All right, we have created 2 halves, or is that 1/3 and 2/3? Now this is what's left. And this is still worth holding on to, because there again, I might get something that shape and that thickness to go in here. So, and this is nice, crisp, solid, heavy gauge cardboard. So shipping in heavy gauge cardboard is a good thing to do when your item is very fragile. If your item ain't so fragile, there's a lesser gauge will save on the weight. But this is a fragile item, so I'm glad this is a heavy gauge. Now I got this fuzz all over the place. Now I'm going to have to cut the corners open, there and there, and then start my fold. That's another reason for the straight edge. I'm going to go ahead and cut those corners with the circular saw because it'll take out a little bit of meat, and I sometimes find that I have the folds are pushing against each other. So if I take out at least a saw blade's worth, maybe that'll decrease the going right down the corner here. Okay. I'll do the other corner. Okay. Now I really like the workbench over there when it comes to this point, but right now I don't feel like clearing off this workbench because this workbench got a nice square, real sharp square corner. This one over here, it's a bit rounded, but I'll work with it because usually I start with the smallest part first when I'm folding it. So we're getting into the folding mode here. So this square is going to help. Ta-da! Okay. Now I've got to go ahead and fold the larger edges. And often I find that this has got a sharp edge this way and a rounded edge this way. So I'm going to turn the sharper edge towards the fold. So let me get a small clamp because sometimes you just need a third hand. So I'm going to clamp this straight edge from wandering. Okay, and I've got it all lined up with the edge now. With that marker, that first black line I put on there. And I'm putting my hand underneath and I'm going to lift up slowly, creeping on down. You don't want to try and just grab the middle and do it because you'll get a crooked line. So work my way back up, pressing down on the straight edge at the same time I'm bending up the cardboard. I mean, these seams will never look as good as the factory, but they're usually more than adequate. Okay, now that I got it started, I'm going to go ahead and fold it back. Now I got to flip this over. Well, so you can see now you can go this way with it. Okay, so turn the box over. Like I said, we're going to use the clamp. We need a third hand. Okay, pressing down on the straight edge, working my way up. There we go. There. And that's largely what it's going to look like on the outside. So I actually have to separate these upper corners now. So I'll just get a knife for that. Just watch you don't cut your fingers. Don't have them behind there. All right. Progress is being made. Sometimes you fold them beyond where they're going to be. So when they pop back in about the right place. So don't be afraid to fold them all the way inwards and let them pop back out. I probably could have done with just a hair more overlap, but it's gonna work. All right, let's take a break here. I'm ready for another cup of coffee. I usually just, well, have one a day, but past week I've been doing like 2 cups a day, and it seems to be working out. So let me go get that coffee and I'll be back. All right, well, I'm back with the coffee. This cup is actually from yesterday. There was about that much in there, and I added to it for what I had already brewed up in the pot, but the coffee's good. Came from one of those gas station convenience stores. They're quite a big chain around here. I think it's Grab It and Leave or something like that. But we also got a breakfast sandwich down there, so I'm going to go on a little rant here. It was called a breakfast steak and egg hoagie. And I was with Cousin Roy. And so we ordered the whole hoagie. We're each going to eat half. So they're like 5 minutes away from my place. So we're down there. We get the sandwich, no problem. Get the coffee, no problem. Leave. We come up here to Penny Pincher's thrift shop, and we're sitting outside. We break open the hoagies. I slide him his piece, and I figure, well, you know, the wife's upstairs. She might like a taste, so I cut her off about, you know, like 1.5 inch piece, which probably left me with a good 5 inches of hoagie yet. So I gave that to her, and then I left her with that. She was upstairs. I came back downstairs while I'm eating my hoagie, and I'm like, this is fresh, but it's got an odd taste. It tastes like room air freshener or Mr. Clean, Spick and Span, something like that. You know, it's subtle. It doesn't like knock you over, but it's enough to like. And no sooner I get down there, Cousin Roy's there with his half hoagie. He says, "Cousin Dan, I ain't eating that. There's something wrong with it." I said, "You're right, Roy. I've detected the same thing." So I went back upstairs and I said to the wife, "How's the hoagie?" She said, "I ate it, but I thought it was a little bit off." So 3 of us, not soliciting anybody for to down talk it or anything, like, "Did you think it was something wrong with it?" No. Roy said, and the wife said, and I knew that there's something wrong with this thing. So Roy and I weren't able to even finish ours. The wife was a bit sick with a cold, so maybe the taste wasn't as unpleasant to her as it was to us, even though she detected it. So we left it in the bag. A couple hours later, we got back down there and said, oh, and the funny thing was, months ago, we had the same sandwich from the same place with the same aftertaste. And we'd forgotten about that. You know, you figure, maybe it was just a fluke. You know, maybe the whatever pot they did they scrambled the eggs in, they didn't rinse it real good. It's just a fluke. And this isn't, you know, so you forget about it. We didn't even complain about it last time. We just Figured, oh, well, what a loss. This time I said, we're taking it back because I remember this happened months ago. And it's the same taste, the same off taste. So we took it back, and I pull up to the pick up your sandwich counter, and a man there, I said, I need to return this. He said, turns around and says, oh, you have to speak to a manager. I'm like, that was rude. What was wrong with just saying, oh, okay, sir, you'll need to speak to a manager about it. The man just turned his back and started marching away. And so the gal in the back, I guess it was a shift manager or something like that, she come up to the register, and I explained what we're dealing with. I said, this tastes like, you know, cleaner or something like that. And we've had this experience before. Well, sir, we don't use cleaner. I didn't think you added cleaner to your sandwich. I'm saying it tastes like cleaner for some reason. So, but we don't use cleaner. I said, really? So you have a dirty kitchen? We use cleaner out there. She pointed out to the main floor. Well, you don't clean your kitchen? Anyway, she's like, well, when did you buy it? You know, because a lot of times you grab that food, you grab it and go, and you give them the ticket, and you're not looking for a receipt sometimes. You forget the receipt or you lose it within the first 30 minutes. So we've nailed it down to what time we were, because I know what time Cousin Roy came up here, and he picked me up at 10:30, so we knew it had to be in between 10:30, 10:45. So she found it, refunded our money. Nobody was very apologetic or said, you know, gee, we better look into that. And the funny thing is, I don't think anybody else was complaining. I mean, I'm not Gordon Ramsay. I mean, I don't think I have the most exquisite taste buds in the world, but there was something off. Like I said, Cousin Roy picked up on it, the wife picked up on it, and we had the same thing a couple months ago. So I think I'm going to call their corporate headquarters and say, you might want to look into this, you know. Like I said, I don't know if it's they're not rinsing out the pot where they scramble their eggs, or if I think maybe the rolls, maybe they're sitting on a shelf and they're just absorbing the odor that's around, because maybe they don't. Some people are, you know, oh, let's get all the bread out of the bun because we know we're going to be selling like 30, 40 hoagies before lunch. So just take them all out, and they set them on the shelf, and they act like air sponges and suck up the odor. So we did get our money back, and by then it was a couple hours later. We used the money. I had to supplement another $2. I think we got some Whoppers up at Burger King. So we didn't go hungry, not for long. But that was my experience with the grab it and get out of here gas station convenience store. So anyway, getting back to this project. Where are we at? Coffee. Okay, a quick test fit. We're going to be shipping this in here. Looks like a big to-do to ship something, but it definitely fits in there. Now it's just a matter of taping the box. I want to maintain the thickness, so I want to flop down on me here. So what I'm going to do is cut a piece of styrofoam to shoot in there, which will help support it so it doesn't want to crush right there. So we need to know the measurement inside, the inside measurement, the inside diameter, the inside width, which is pretty much 5 1/8, maybe 5 1/8 is a safe bet. So I've got styrofoam blocks, and a lot of times I just save random chunks of styrofoam that may have come from that, like that television box, or from some other sources. But I do have styrofoam. And it's interesting where I got it. It came from ammo crates from the Vietnam War era. I have crates, we'll go over that another day, but it had styrofoam in it, several pieces of wood. The ammo was not still there. The ammo, I think, was maybe like a bazooka load or something like that. But what I'm going to do is rip a piece of this, and then it'll be able to slide in here and keep this side from crushing. So we said it was going to be 5 1/8 marker. I appreciate you sticking along with me while we do this. I know this particular subject isn't the most interesting thing, so I'm trying to supplement it with decent conversation. Well, I guess it's monologuing. Conversation, you'd be able to talk back to me. So anyway, you know, it's just something that I'll put on the YouTube, and we'll see if people like it or lukewarm about it or don't think anything of it at all. You know, I would like some feedback, some comments, you know. All right, getting the square out here. The square fits real nice and snug up against there. I'm not even going to have to draw lines. There's a little slippery slider on the cardboard box, but so we said it was 5 1/8, so I'll go 5 1/8 and draw a line. Now I have a bandsaw in the back room. A lot of times I cut styrofoam when it has to be a certain shape to fit around something. I'll cut it on the bandsaw, but it does make a lot of styrofoam dust. But this one I'm just going to score it with a knife and then crack it. So it doesn't score as easily as you would think. It just likes to roll up and cause balls of styrofoam to come up out of the groove. So you have to almost use a sawing motion. That's it. Don't want to get the bandsaw and make all that dust. Besides, I got to fix my bandsaw. The switch, it won't shut off, so now I'm having to plug it and unplug it. Over here at the other workbench, going to crack on this table edge. And there we go, crack-a-rooney. Okay, so this should be what I need it to be. Yeah, okay. I'm liking that. My upper flap's going to meet. If your upper flaps don't meet, that means it's too tall. But the upper flaps are meeting, so that's just the right size. So the next question is about keeping it in place. Because if I don't anchor it some way, it's just going to fall and roll around in the box, and then this will be able to be susceptible to crushing. So let me come up with something to anchor that styrofoam in place. All right, I said we're going to try and anchor that styrofoam in place. You know, if this was a wood crate, you know, wood corners, you would just take a nail brad nail and go pst, pst, pst. Well, that got me thinking, well, what can I use? How about drywall screws? So I'm going to run these drywall screws, maybe 2 on each side. Hardware. I've got a gaggle of hardware because so many yard sales and estate sales. Sometimes you just pick the stuff up for pennies on the dollar, or sometimes they'll even say, take it, just get it out of here. So I think I have a couple thousand of these, so I don't have to worry about being frivolous by using these. So run this down in there. One there. I've never done this before with the screws, so Tell me what you think about using screws in this situation. Was it a cool idea or was it crazy? I mean, I figure I got nothing to lose and I really want to keep this secure. And I'll wrap tape around it so that'll keep the screws from accidentally backing out. Let's flip it over and do the other side. Oh, there goes my coffee. Yo, look at that. Perfectly upside down. All right. No use crying over spilt coffee. I do got to clean it up, though. It'll make a tracky mess. Was it the other night? I had the wife and I were out. We went to Arby's, and you know, like a lot of us people, you want to fill your drink up before you leave because you know that's part of the perk. You know, you fill your drink up. We ate in and drank half our drink, and we topped it off. And we had groceries when we got home, so I unlocked the door and I had the soda pop and some groceries, and I set the soda pop down on a crate that was, you know, about 18 inches tall on the floor because I needed a free hand to go out and grab some more groceries. Or no, I ran some stuff upstairs because I had 2 cases of pop, required both hands to keep steady. So I ran those upstairs, and before I got back downstairs, wouldn't you know, of all things, the wife, and it was probably due to dim lighting and such things, she had 1 case of pop and decided to put it on that same crate and knock that pop over and bloosh all over the floor. So the only good thing about it was close to the door. So I was able to reach the garden hose from around the corner and just spray it out the door because you really don't want that stickiness all over your floor. It draws certain bugs and whatnot. So, you know, I was able to get like 98% of it out the door, and then so I'd rather be walking in water than soda pop. But then the wife took a rubber dustpan and shushed the rest of the water out the door. So, but right now I've got coffee on the floor. Like I say, it's better than soda pop, but I'm going to go ahead and mop it up. I've got plenty of towels, so give me a moment here. All right, well, I got some rags. I tried to look for the nastiest possible rag. I usually take them through certain steps progression, you know, from dust rags to hand towels to just wiping off workbenches, and then maybe something finally really greasy, and then lastly maybe the floor. But to me, these rags are almost too good to be mopping up the floor with, but like I say, I've got no shortage of rags. So another thing you tend to find at yard sales all the time, if people don't already have a collection of decent rags in a bag in their garage or something where they got at least maybe cheap towels that are for sale. All right, that looks like it did good enough. I say even though it's soaked with coffee, I can hang it over the trash can and then let it dry. And then if I'm working on something really greasy and I spray it with degreaser, I can follow up using that rag. All right, we're in the middle of flipping this box over when I knocked the coffee over. So all right. I guess I won't be needing this coffee cup anymore. Okay, fold the corner over, push the styrofoam tight into the corner, line up a screw, one there, and one for down below. On the lower end, I should say, huh? And that's basically just pinning it. I mean, technically, I could have just hammered them in, even though they're screws, but that's a trick I learned once from somebody I used to do remodeling with. hammer a screw in some situations rather than waste your time going, especially back in the day before everybody had the cordless power tools. We're talking, you know, like 40 years ago. So sometimes the quickest way was just to hammer the screw in and be done with it. Alrighty. So, you can see I got that styrofoam up there now. So I gotta run some tape over this seam. Right, easier to put the box on the floor. Yeah, what I thought was going to be an overlap seam ended up being basically a butt seam. But because we got the styrofoam back there behind it, that doesn't seem to be any real issue. So like I said, this item, I'm here in Pittsburgh, and this is shipping up to Erie. I'm not sure of the exact mileage, but it's considered relatively close, you know. It's like shipping something from Orlando to Tampa. All right. Okay. We have a box. Now, the next issue is putting the item in with enough padding and protection that it doesn't weigh it down too much and drive the shipping price back up. Because it's funny that a lot of these shipping quotes, if you got something that's 6.5 pounds, they charge you for a 7-pound ship. And if you got something that's 6 pounds and 1 ounce, they charge you for the 7-pound ship. So there have been a couple of times where I'm like, oh man, it's 1 ounce over. Can I shave it off? You know, a lot of times I'll unfold, especially on some boxes with big flaps, I'll cut the flaps into triangle shapes where you can't see them when you fold up the outer ones. A lot of times that pays off because sometimes the difference between an ounce can be, as far as shipping, could be easily $5, I've found. So, let me show you the inside of my box here. Okay, so if you didn't know any better, you would have thought there was a square TV, but we did a nice job on it. That block of styrofoam, see how it's basically the same exact width, give or take, especially here where it's touching and down below it's touching. There's a slight gap there. If I'd cut it on the bandsaw, it probably wouldn't have been exact all the way down, but there was no big plus to doing that. This is more than adequate for this. So our object to ship, the vintage clock, goes down, down, down in there. You can see the top spike is still like almost 3 inches from the top of the box. So I can put a piece of styrofoam across the bottom. You know, that'll help stiffen the box up and take up some space. One of my favorite things to use in shipping items, and I'm surprised that it hasn't caught on. I once confessed that I was doing it, and a lot of people are like, oh, what do you think you're doing? That's not right. I use empty water bottles. Very cushiony, very light. And they take up a lot of space. So, because people are like, you should use bubble wrap. I'm trying to save the planet here, LOL, by recycling, rather than going out buying rolls of bubble wrap. So I'm going to cut another piece of styrofoam to fit across the bottom. So maybe I will cut the next one on the bandsaw. Yeah, well, let's see. What size do I have here? My leftover piece. We said we needed 5 1/4. This is 5 1/2. So I still have to rip something off of it. So I think I will fire up the bandsaw because it's too hard to cut a sliver and snap it off. So let me go ahead and do. Now I've gone ahead and taken my styrofoam and measured it and used the square and drawn a straight line down on it. So like I say, it's too hard to cut a sliver with a knife. It gets pretty choppy. Here's a bandsaw I told you I was using. I picked this up at a yard sale. Got a great price on it. And I sold my previous bandsaw. So, and here's the switch that don't work. So I have to plug it in and unplug it. So we got to get around to fixing that. But hold on while I go ahead and cut this. Okay, mission accomplished. I cut it down to size. This should fit inside the bottom of that box now. I'm not too thrilled at having to keep handling this thing. If I'm going to turn around and smack it and break something off of it again. Okay, I got the width on it. It's a little bit too long right now. I'm going to chop that end off with a knife. All right, I'm pushing that styrofoam to the bottom of the box here. My arms aren't long enough. Take this piece of wood here. Okay. What I'm going to do now is drop the clock body in here and then run over and put it on the scale and get an update on what our weight's looking like. So you'll hang on. I'll be back. Once again, I was sailing alone, making my video, and then I hit the wrong button and it stopped. So now I have to start another one, which means I got to splice them together. All right, I am taking plastic bottles and attaching them to this clock here with rubber bands. So that'll keep them from dropping all the way down to one side inside the box. It's nice I put one on each side. Yeah, that's working out good. You know, the person that bought this initially said that they wanted to come pick it up. I'm like, okay, I'm available if you want at such and such time. You know, I've got weeks. And then they changed their mind. And then I'm like, okay, I'll ship it. But after I started doing the numbers and the figuring the labors and the boxes, and I said, why don't you come pick it up? I'll just refund you the shipping. And they're like, just put it in bubble wrap. It'll be okay. Oh, gee, I've been doing this for 20 years. Just put it in bubble wrap. That was the problem. Everybody, all right. Anyway, here's your bubble wrap. Take out the few drops of H2O. I'll show you this after I get pretty much the majority of them in place. Well, I guess I can show it to you now. I'm going to lift it out of here. See how I put some on each side. And then I dropped a couple down inside the box, and that told me they were going to work, but I may as well go ahead and attach them with rubber bands. rubber band, man. Okay, so we'll try going 3 and 3. Is that gonna put one down on this side? I think that's a good idea using water bottles, so tell me what you think. Some people are like, well, you're going to send your germs. Well, come on, people are selling, you know, their underwear on eBay. They're selling, of course, musical wind instruments on eBay. They're selling whistles. There's all kinds of things that have gone to people's mouths that are being sold on eBay and other platforms. So don't tell me I'm sending you my germs. Actually, water is one of the things that tends to be a good cleaning. Keeps the amount of bacteria down. A lot of bacteria doesn't like living in pure water. I wish it was a cure-all, but all right. I'm kind of pleased with that. Let me show you what I got. Now, be careful. Don't touch the wrong button. I'm going to hit the little deer print. Okay, so you can see I've got 3 bottles on the front, 3 bottles on the back. That's pretty darn well anchored. Okay, so maybe I'll go ahead and I got to remember to put the clock face materials inside. So we'll do that, and then I guess we can seal it up. You know, I know this video may be long-winded, but not all of it was the actual working on the box. A lot of time I just took time out to rant, so. The clock face is over here. On my workbench. I still think it's safer. I mean, I technically could go ahead and put the face back on. I'm debating, even as we speak, as to whether or not to go ahead and do that. I think I will. I'll go ahead and put the clock face back on, because there's some people out there who would say, you didn't tell me it was going to be all taken apart. Although I would think a 4th grader could put it back together. So, but let's go ahead and put the clock face back on it. Okay. The only thing you really got to first concern is to make sure that it's positioned correctly, because there's the wall hanger on the back of it. So that would be 12 o'clock high. And who would have thought that just by chance when I slapped that down there, I got it right the first time. All right, so now I have to feed the clock motor up through the back. And in that case, you want the battery compartment hanging down. Technically, it would work in any position, but best to have the battery hanging down. So, all right, well, I've put the motor up through the back, put a washer on, and a nut. So snugging it up with the pliers. The nut holds the face and the motor in place. All right. You can see I had the stuff packaged to go when I thought initially I was going to be shipping it in flat cardboard, just make a big clamshell. Like this was the clock. I was going to take 2 pieces of cardboard and sandwich it in there and tape it all closed. But then I decided that was going to be too fragile for it. And that's why I contacted them and said, well, how about you come pick it up like you said you were going to do initially? And I said, just rub it in bubble wrap. So alrighty then. The hour hand goes on first. Let's push it down. Then goes the minute hand. Now the minute hand is actually held on by a tiny little, I don't know, you call it thumb screw nut. Because the hour hand, when you push it down, actually engages with some threads and it's like a press fit. But the minute hand gets pressed on by this little nut here. Actually has a small amount of knurling on the side, but so, and that should come in contact with the minute hand when I wind it down. Taking a little bit of coordination here because it's such tiny threads. Fine threads. All right, there it goes. The minute hand does have a cog, or not a cog, a key. It's keyed into that shaft. Okay, so grabbing it with my fingernails and putting some torque on it. It's in place. Alrighty, back into the box you go. Back into the box. I remember when I used to sell at the flea market, you know, it was nice because you just handed the people their item. So whatever you sold it for, you didn't have to worry about, quote, packing it up. So all right, so test fit, closing the flaps up, bounce it around. It's got a little wiggle in the jiggle, but I don't think it's going to get much better than what we got going on here. I'm actually trying to dig a hole in the styrofoam to put one of these spikes in it. Better positioning. Okay, now when I last measured it, I think we were still well under 8 pounds. And I would hate to get to 8 pound 1 ounce because then you've hit the 9 pound. So we don't want that because they'll charge you for a whole nother. I don't know why they can't prorate that stuff. I mean, I could see bumping it up maybe every quarter, but for 1 ounce to bump it up another 15 ounces, it just doesn't seem that fair to me, but it is what it is, and what it is what I have to deal with. So that's part of the nature of this game if you're going to be into reselling. I could cut a piece of this schlocky cardboard here, maybe drop it down that side, just as a little more protection. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let me go cut a piece on the bandsaw. All right, I've cut this cardboard, so I'm going to make it my topper inside this box before I seal it up. I don't think it's going to get much better than that. I mean, of course, you write fragile all over these things and hope that means something to the shippers, but you know, we all hear stories that it doesn't mean anything to them, but sometimes I think it means more to the people on the receiving end that you've marked it fragile than the people who are actually doing the shipping. So let me go get a weight on this. All right, I weighed it. 7.9 pounds, which means about another 3 ounces, and I would have been into the 8-pound range. So I'm glad that didn't occur. So I am ready to tape this mug shut and print some labels for it and send it down the road. Oh, let's go. That away. Now, if they treat this package right, the shipper, there shouldn't be any issue. If they don't abuse it, I'm not saying they do, or I really haven't had much problem shipping items as far as things being broken. I think one or two times that something broke on me, it was so fragile I probably should have never tried to ship it. The one thing that comes to mind was a cookie jar. I think it was a Mickey Mouse. You know, it was probably made in the 40s, but, you know, it had all these crazing, you know, which is like microscopic cracks, but the thing's still holding together. Almost looks like crackle glass, you know. So I think that just shattered into mulch or something by the time. And it may have been a similar something like that once, but I haven't had much people say it arrived broken. Now, I've had people complain. I shipped a plastic nativity set blow mold. You know, those are like practically like water bottles themselves. You know, it got there with no problem. But, you know, they give you a left-handed feedback. You know, they don't give you a negative, but it says, "Oh, I wish he would have shipped it a little better." Buddy, they're plastic bottles. I'm not going to wrap each one individually in a diaper or something like that for you. You know, I shipped them according to what they were. You know, if they were in mint condition, then maybe I would have gotten a bigger price and I would have, you know, strategically wrapped each one. But for what it was already, they saw the pictures. They were dirty to some degree. They were, there, you know, maybe a couple of stains here and there, you know. So it was definitely, it got there in the condition it left here. So they really have no business saying, "I wish they would have packed it better." Okay. Okay. Okay, it is complete. I would take you along to show you the how to print out a label like that, but I know this video has gone long, so we're gonna stop it here. One of these days, maybe I'll have a faster package deal, and I'll show you me printing out the label. But thanks for your patience. I hope you found this somewhat amusing, somewhat entertaining. I enjoyed your company. So, Secondhand Dan, signing off. Thanks, folks. Leave a comment.